And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of New Earth Tarot. So happy to be with all of you today, once again. And we're going to have, again, some Q&A from the chat for everybody that is here today. So you can feel free to place semi-personal or general questions in the chat. And using the tarot, or even through spirit communication, I'll provide some insight on the questions that you guys have. So let's remember, semi-personal or general. Any personal questions, got to save that for private sessions. All right. So speaking of private sessions and many other things, we're going to go ahead now and start off with some announcements.
The world's first spiritual rejuvenation technology in the form of modern everyday items has arrived through AetherX. AetherX offers transcendental healing products that work to detoxify, replenish, and restore you on a physical, emotional, and mental level. The Aether Bed Kit takes the form of a powerful rejuvenation technology that utilizes your own life force energy to restore organs, glands, bodily systems, the energy system, and replenish emotional and mental well-being. The AetherX card decks, the healing code cards, eliminate and detoxify physical, emotional, and mental conflicts within the body. 44 beautifully designed geometrical cards specifically designed to work on the major areas of the body, encouraging natural recovery and increased vitality. The healing code cards come in 3 different themes: the body, mind, and energy decks, each with their own specific design to renew and rejuvenate the body. AetherX apparel and accessories that offer comfortable attire and beautiful geometrical and image designs to detoxify, strengthen, and rejuvenate the body. Download our collection of free sample images and cards from our website so that you can witness the benefits of AetherX spiritual technology for yourself. Visit our website now at etherx.co and begin your rejuvenation journey with us.
And of course, we have some new products on the Etheric's website that was debuted on February 1st. So again, that represents the Ether cloth, that represents the Ether bed beach towel. And also we got some new Etheric's apparel. So basically the hologram shirt. We also have activator shirts as well too. They look great. And of course, I will be doing another launch here on February 15th. And through February 15th, there will be another discount coupon as well too. And that is going to be the launch of the Ether mat, the yoga mat. So the Ether mat, again, is very similar to the Ether bed because it does have a healing mode and a sleep mode. And it also has a yoga mode as well too. So I'm going to be unveiling the yoga mat on February 15th. And again, that will be have a discount offer for a whole week as well too, once February 15th comes around. In the meantime, you can check out our website at etherx.co. You can also check out our YouTube channel, as I'm going to be doing another live webcast next Wednesday, which will be the opening or the debut of the Ether mat on February 15th. So it's youtube.com/@etherxstore. You can also check out facebook.com and instagram.com etherxstore as well too. So I'm looking forward to launching this really amazing yoga mat that, again, has multiple purposes to it, multiple functions. It's very powerful. It looks beautiful as well too. It has intricate sacred geometry through it as well too. So go ahead and check that out, etherx.co. It will be coming on February 15th. I'll have some announcements before that date, talk a little bit more about the Ether mat. All right? So go ahead and check that out. And let me just go to my next part here. There it is. Okay, so again, private sessions are available. 3-question private email sessions, and of course, distance healing requests by donation are all available. You can check that out on newearthteachings.com. And finally, everything that is on our YouTube channel here on New Earth Teachings is backed up onto Odyssey. So you can check out the link in the video description as well, odyssey.com/@newearthteachings, and you can follow the backup channel. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's broadcast. Tomorrow is New Earth TV Live, and what I'm going to be doing tomorrow for the meditation segment is we're going to be sending a guided mass meditation to the country of Turkey. Okay, so as they had their enormous earthquake, definitely, of course, a lot of countries surrounding them as well. So we're going to be sending healing energy to Turkey during the mass meditation tomorrow on New Earth TV Live. So please make sure you guys can feel free to join that, because the more people that come in and start to join in these mass meditations, that's where we get a lot of potency and a lot of power behind the intention to help the people in Turkey who have gone through this very intense earthquake. Okay, so that is going to be happening tomorrow, as well as distance healing. I'm developing a brand new healing technique. Okay, I actually just had a dream last night where I had a very powerful healer that was coming to me in my dream state, and he was teaching me these new forms of healing modalities. That is all based upon the principles of magnetism. It's really, really amazing. So I'm going to be debuting a new healing technique tomorrow when we do distance healing. So it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time, same time as today, okay, for New Earth TV Live. So be sure to join me for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our live chat. Welcome everybody. And Carter, thank you very much for the donation. I appreciate that. So if you guys do have a donation, if you want to leave a donation and a question, that will put you first in line. Okay, so just feel free to use the YouTube super chat. You can put a donation along with your question, and again, I'll get you first in line for that. Otherwise, we're just going to go down the list. All right. Okay. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hello, people from Poland and New Zealand, Belgium, Orlando, Florida. Welcome, guys. Good to see you all here. Okay, this is a question here from Star Owl. Star Owl says, question, what is a halo? And can you see one through your third eye? Yeah, you absolutely can. It's what we call the spirit eye practice. Right? A friend of mine, Forrest Knudsen, has also talked about this. Is where you're basically seeing the inner eye or the spirit eye. And it's basically being used through a certain mudra. Okay. Sometimes this mudra has been referred to as Yoni mudra. It could also be referred to as Jyoti mudra as well too. Shambhava mudra is another name for it. But basically what it entails, and I'm going to give you guys kind of the simplified version of it, is you're just taking your thumbs and just plugging your ears just like this. Okay. Then you're just putting your index, middle, ring fingers just on the forehead, and you're just taking your pinky fingers just like this. And it's kind of like you're looking up and you're closing your eyes, and you're just putting a very, very light pressure on the corner of your eyes. And as you do that, you start to see the aura, as it were, of your own inner spiritual eye. Okay? So you would want to keep it there for as long as you feel you could. You're basically just taking the pinky fingers, and you're just very, very gently, with very little force, just putting a little bit of pressure on the corner of the eyes as your eyes are looking up at the brow. When you're doing that, after a few seconds, you can start to see light coming in, right? So that's what we call the inner light, okay? And as you continue to hold it for a certain amount of time, and then you finally let go, you sense what looks like a halo, right? It looks like a ring of light. There's other different visualizations with it. It can also look like your entire vision is covered in white light. Sometimes you may start to see patterns. You can see patterns kind of like a web, like a fleece in that way, right? The whole idea of Jason and the Argonauts about finding the golden fleece. Well, that's all about the idea of finding the spirit eye, right? It had nothing to do with some outward thing. That's the idea that you're actually seeing the inner eye. You're seeing the spirit eye. You're seeing this halo, or you're seeing this, you can see it kind of like a cave. You may also get visions while you're doing that as well too. So again, there's several different names for it. Yoni mudra, Jyoti mudra, Shambhavi mudra. Okay, but again, you're just basically putting your pinky fingers right there and just gently pressing as your eyes are closed and you're just looking up. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice, but the more that you practice it, it'll work really, really good. There's other versions as well too, where you're basically just putting the index finger and middle finger on the eyes. You're putting the ring fingers against the nostrils so you can control your breath, and the pinky fingers are going down here by the mouth. And you can put a little bit of pressure. It's not really one that I prefer. I don't really prefer that one. The one I showed you previously is the one that I personally prefer. It just feels a little bit more better for me. But you can experiment with this. So these are simple mudras that yogis have taught others to help you exercise and being able to see the inner spirit eye within yourself. And like I said, it just looks like a halo. But it can have different colors to it. Some people can see it as a blue. Some people can see it as white. Some people can see it maybe as a yellowish color as well too. Like I said, it can expand. And it's kind of like you're looking through a cave and you can see visions. because that's happened to me quite a few times when I'm doing the Shambhavi Mudra or Yoni Mudra, and I am just basically letting it go, and I can see these visions that are coming through. Sometimes I'll see landscapes, sometimes I'll see people. It just varies, right? You don't really control it. And the whole idea is that it works more prominently with you if you're not trying to reach out and grab it with your intention, right? You're not trying to grab that light. If you can just be the witness, and if you can just observe and just let the light be itself through humility, that light is going to become much more prominent. That's how spirit works. It's kind of like a practice to helping you become humbled before spirit, become humbled before God, right? So that's what we do, is we can work together with Shambhavi Mudra, Yoni Mudra, Jyoti Mudra, right? And just being able to awaken the inner eye, the spirit eye. And that will help you develop yourself to seeing the spirit light within yourself, to seeing the spirit eye altogether, all right? So that's a little exercise you can go ahead and you can check out if you want. Thank you for your question. Okay, this one here is from Carter. Hello, Carter. Brad, he says, hi, Brad. I don't know if you covered this, but will the U.S. income tax end this year or next? Okay, well, we can check out for now if it's this year. Okay, if there's going to be an ending to the income tax. All right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let the card speak for itself. All right. And then I'll do some follow-up after we look into the cards. So why don't we take a look at that? Let's see, will the income tax, the United States income tax, be ending this year? Will it be reformed before the end of this year? Okay, let's take a look. Well, I would say at best there's going to be some changes with the income tax. This is representing the past, okay? So the greedy have attempted to keep this around for quite some time, but I feel like it's going to go through an overhaul, okay? It's going to change. I can't say, for example, if it's going to be abolished, but this is kind of a confirmation saying that you're on the right track with that feeling, Carter, okay? Before the end of the year. So I think something is going to happen to it. I think there might be some exposures with it. And that's kind of what this card is suggesting. Okay, there's going to be some revealing coming through, right? We're going to get some revealing. We're going to get some more disclosure on it, right? We're going to see how it's, it's just a Puerto Rican trust. Okay, that's all the IRS is. It's nothing but a Puerto Rican trust. It's a privatized agency. And I think we're going to see some more people starting to question it. So I can't say, for example, if it's going to be abolished. I can't say, for example, for certain if it's going to be reformed before the end of the year, but there's definitely going to be some more scrutiny on it. Okay, so it's definitely going to be brought out into the limelight. I think it's just one of those things that needs to be exposed on a much more larger level. Okay, right now it's really just been exposed, and people who do the research will know this, but it's not for it's not like the sleepers know it. Okay, when the sleepers know it, that's where there's things changes. Like I said, it's when you notice these things are coming on MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or anything of that nature, while the sleepers are looking at that. And they're seeing that and saying, oh my God, there's this stuff with the IRS, right? And they're getting an exposure. And that is going to basically cripple the whole idea of this infrastructure. But in the past, yes, this has definitely been under dark cabal control for quite some time. So it's basically in the works of something of a rework, of an overhaul pertaining to the IRS, an exposure campaign in that way to it. So I would say just see what happens before the end of 2023. We don't really need to look at the end of 2024 right now because we want to see what the end of 2023 can bring. But I can't guarantee it'll be reformed before the end of this year, right? But it's certainly going to be scrutinized. It's certainly going to be exposed a lot more. Okay, and that's basically what can be shared about it right now. It looks like it's going to be brought out into the open and put into the limelight to be exposed further. Okay, thank you, Carter. All right, let's go down the list here a bit more. Okay, this one here is from Mihail. Mihail says, question, will transitional government be available for Russia this year? Okay. Transitional government being available for Russia. I think it's already happened, but we'll take a look. Let me just ask on the idea of transitional government for Russia, and has it already happened? Yeah. Russia basically is the epitome of the counterforces, right? So through transitional government, to me, it feels like it's already happening. But I'll see what the cards say here. Yeah, it's already happened, right? Russia's already not even just in a transitional leadership. They're the ones that are really calling the shots. They're the ones that are basically being relied upon to take care of cleaning up this mess representing the Dark Cabal. If you guys want to look at a country that's pretty much the emphasis of the counterforces, you look at Russia, okay? You don't look at any other country, right? There's other countries that are helping them, but it's kind of like Russia is calling the shots relating to the counterforce movement on the planet. Right? They're kind of the law and order here. They're the ones that are basically being bestowed with all of these measures to come together and to take down everything that represents the Dark Cabal. That is the Russians' influence here altogether. Okay, so we have the Four of Pentacles. So this tells me it's infrastructure, right? This is really kind of the base of operations that represents Russia. Russia is basically calling the shots, pretty much everything as it relates to counterforce activity. Okay. So they're getting a lot of information. So to me, it feels like there's a lot of information that's coming to them, both on-world and off-world. Right? So I feel like they're really getting a lot of intel. They're getting a lot of the info that they need to basically take down the remnants of the dark forces. Okay, so that's really their goal, and they're basically put in charge for looking at the off-worlders. Off-worlders are mostly talking to Russian intelligence. Okay, the Russians have basically been chosen as the people of the country to be like the forefront leaders of the counterforces. Okay, and so this is what they're doing. They're basically cleaning house, right? They're transforming the idea of all this rulership that once was in the Dark Cabal's hands, and it's going to be changing hands. So it's not even a question about transitional leadership. That doesn't even really play a part here. It's not even a question about transitional government. That doesn't even play a part here. It's so beyond that, right? Russia's beyond that idea. They're past transition. They're actually relating the call. They're established. So they're not transitional. They are established. It's established counterforce leadership. Like I said, guys, you don't look into Vladimir Putin. Okay, he's not the guy in charge. He's a figurehead. Right? So if you start looking at politics in regards to Putin, you're not seeing the true leader here. You're looking at a figurehead. He's not the guy. Okay, there's others behind him that are working together, that are not on screen, that are not on your television, that are not in media in any way. They are the ones that are actually calling the shots. Okay, so it's not even a question of transitional government with Russia. Russia is far beyond that. Okay, we have to also remember, guys, and here's some homework I want you to do. I want you to actually look at the word Russia and know what it means. Then you'll understand why they've been the guys, the girls, right? To basically wave the flag of the counterforces. I want you to look into what Russia means. What does the word Russia mean? Okay? And then you'll know why. You'll know why they have been chosen to do it. Okay? All right, thank you very much for your question. Let's go further down the list. Okay, so this one here is from Alina. Alina says, hello, Brad. I was wondering what exactly is, I think you said the 0-point energy, from the scientific point of view, and the insight about when we will be able to benefit from it. You're benefiting from it right now. 0-point energy represents the ether. Okay? 0-point energy, we can also refer to it as the ether. We can also refer to it as counter space. Okay? Everything that represents the ether. So the ether itself is the idea that basically there's no momentum. There's nothing you can identify with the nature of the ether. It is when the ether itself is being perturbated. When there's perturbation through the ether, through thought, that is what basically creates a disturbance through the dielectric and magnetic fields. Remember I was talking about this last week? Okay? So you're looking at 0-point energy representing the energy of the ether, or rather the perturbations from the ether. Can't really get energy from the ether itself because the ether itself is energyless, right? It's nothing that you can see. It's nothing that you can perceive. It has no form. It needs to be disturbed for there to be magnetism, for there to be dielectricity. Okay? So magnetism, dielectricity are basically one and the same, but they represent perturbations of the magnetic field, because the magnetic field, the ether, is getting inverted. Okay? It's an inverted anomaly. It's an inverted effect that takes place. When that happens, dielectricity represents the inertia momentum behind the distortion, behind the perturbation of the ether. The magnetism is the loss of inertia behind the inertia to which dielectricity is basically shooting out. Right? It's an explosive force, and that force is what's creating the inverted geometry to what we refer to as a torus field or a hyperboloid, or otherwise known as a hourglass symbol. Okay, what I'm basically teaching you guys here is the works of Ken Wheeler. Okay, he is the only man on the entire planet who has been able to discover the entire scientific nature of magnetism. He's the only one. Okay, and so basically when I've talked about it, I've always kind of talked about it in kind of more of an esoteric and spiritual way. He's been able to look at it from a much more scientific point of view. He's been able to look at its technicality. He's been able to look at it from its inside perspective, so to speak. And like I said, the man is a great genius. And you can just type that up on YouTube, Ken Wheeler, magnetism. Okay? And you'll find quite a few of his videos about magnetism. He's very extensive with it. Okay? And he had to do buttloads of research for many years to discover the secret of magnetism. Okay? But all magnetism is, we call it a field, but all the field is in that sense is just inertia of the ether, perturbations of the ether. So when you look at ether itself, it doesn't even have a field. Okay? The field itself representing magnetism is a anomaly, or basically a perturbating or disturbance effect of the ether. It's when the ether is being inverted. Okay? And that is all through thought. Magnetism is thought. Thought is magnetism. So you see how I'm constantly doing this? Right? It's an easy way to do it, guys, is you put your hands together like this. Okay? And then just expand. Okay? So putting it together like this, you can kind of expand it like that. This is giving the idea of the torus. Okay? Expand. Expand. Okay? That's the torus. That is the natural totality geometry of the entire creation. Okay? Just like this, guys, we call it the flower of life, but do you know what it really is? It's the torus. Okay? It's a toroidal field. That's the nature of everything that represents magnetism and dielectricity. So when you're looking at the ether, you can't see it, right? It's like all the space that's around you right now that you can't identify with. That's the ether. That's why I say it's right here, right now. Okay? It's the perturbations representing the ether that creates magnetism. And magnetism's all around us. And that is exactly what they call zero-point energy devices are actually honing in on. They're working with magnetism. They are manifestors, not just generators. When you are working with zero-point energy, you're looking at manifestation technology. You're not looking at generator technology. This is also coming from Ken Wheeler, right? And he's absolutely right about this. You are manifesting energy. You are manifesting this particular generator or device to basically bring forward the energy so that it has unlimited supply. Okay, so wherever there's magnetism, that again is the perturbation of the ether. You are a perturbation of the ether. Your body is a perturbation of the ether. Your mind is a perturbation of the ether because it works through thoughts, right? Emotions, feelings, thoughts, sensations. Those are all perturbations of the mind, hence the ether. When everything goes still, when everything goes quiet, I want you just to focus right now on the empty space within your space right now. Right? So you see my wall here, you see my floor, my ceiling. What about what's in the middle? I'm not talking about me. Over here, over here, over here, here. It's nothing but emptiness. Guys, that's the ether. Okay? You cannot identify, you cannot focus on the ether because there's nothing to focus on. The mind can't do it. The mind needs some particular type of point to reference. Okay, here's a glass. Okay, here's a microphone. Okay, here's a camera. Here's a screen. The mind can identify with that, but it cannot identify with nothingness, right? It cannot identify with absence. It can't do that. It's not designed to do that. The mind will only identify with form. It will only identify with perturbation. Okay? So this is what's happening, is when you're looking at the idea of thought, right? It's a magnetism. And that is what's basically causing the ether to invert. As I've talked before, even before I knew of Ken Wheeler, I would talk to people about the idea of when you're looking at the nature of the mind, when you're actually going into the mind. It's the intelligence, it's consciousness, it's the self that is therefore aligning to a thought, and it's expanding the mind. Okay? As it expands the mind, this is what creates the inversion of the ether. When you go back into the quiet, when you go back into the stillness, the ether folds back upon itself. The mind goes within itself. It returns back to the self. The ancients have known this for thousands of years, but they didn't really put it in a scientific, technical term like what Ken Wheeler is doing. Okay? He's putting it into scientific, technical terms. But the ancients have known this for thousands of years about the whole nature of magnetism. It's nothing new. Right? What's new is that he's bringing it about in much more of the modern community in regards to technical terms. But this is ancient knowledge, guys. Right? When you are as the self, everything is still, everything is silent, everything is surrender. But when you attach to a thought, you invert the ether. You invert the mind, right? The mind is created through the inversion of the ether because you've created a disturbance. Okay? So when we look at the idea of that disturbance, that is what represents the dielectric field, the magnetic field. And it's that dielectric and magnetic field that devices like a zero-point device are actually able to tune into because they're running off magnetism, right? It's the magnetism perturbated by the ether, okay? It's etheric technology. This is what I'm talking about, guys. That's the true ingenious way of living, is when you start just utilizing everything through the ether, okay? The magnetism, the dielectricity that comes through the ether when it is perturbated, that's what you're aligning to. That's how you're able to get anything. It cannot just pick up nothing because there's no substance to ether. Ether is not a substance. Okay? But again, the disturbance of the ether is what creates this magnetism and dielectricity. Okay? Maybe I'm going like this to you guys. I don't know. But when you're looking at 0 point, you're basically looking at the ether. That's why it's called 0 point. You can call it 0 point, you can call it null point, you can call it ether, you can call it counter space. It's all the same. It's all one and the same name, all one and the same meaning. It's the ether. Okay? Thank you for your question, Alina. Okay, now this one here is from Ian. Ian says, question, hi Brad, I noticed on your shelf you have something that looks like runes on it. Do you ever use the runes? Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Let's see if I can get myself over to my shelf here. Okay, so I think you're talking about this. This is a wand that I created back in 2018 when I was living on Salt Spring Island. Okay, these are not runes. Okay, these are light circuits. These are actually symbols that came to me when I was creating the wand. So they're not based upon the idea of Celtic runes or anything of that nature. I have used runes in the past, yes. In the past, yes. But I basically kind of outgrew them. I kind of went past them. It's not to say that they're a bad thing. They're good. It's just something that didn't really compute too well with me, right? I wasn't too interested in looking at the Celtic runes. It just wasn't in alignment to me. For somebody else, it could be beneficial, okay? No, these are light circuits that came to me through download states that I decided to put on the wall, on the wand. So when I was meditating with the wand, these symbols were helping out. So these were kind of like energy healing symbols that I put upon the wand as well too. And of course we see the 633 right here, which represents my life path numerology. Okay, so I'm a 33 numerology equaling out to a life path of 6. So I've always worked with the 633. Okay, and that's been like my synchronistic number, and that comes up quite a bit with synchronicity, with just very, very enlightening moments, and I get the 633 coming in. So that's just based upon a wand that I've created back in 2018. It certainly does look ruin-like, but they're not actually ruins. They're light circuits. All right. Thank you for your question. You're the first person to ask me about that. So I guess it just helps me to put these things up. So you guys are I'm kind of waiting for you guys to ask these questions about me. Brad, what's that book you got over there? Brad, why do you got the Ohm symbol over here? That's great, guys. I'm glad you guys are so perceptive because I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. I'm just waiting for you guys to ask the question, right? So thank you very much for your question, Ian. Okay, this one here is from Grow. Grow says, Brad, can you see who is running Norway right now? No, I wouldn't be able to do that. Not really through a person, okay? But we can basically kind of look into the idea if it's counter forces or if it's dark forces. If that's okay with you, we can certainly do that, okay? But I can't really give you a name or something like that. And even if I could, I still wouldn't do that, right? And it's just not good for me to do that. It's basically trying to expose people or anything of that nature, because then that's just giving them unwanted attention, and I don't want to do that regardless of their alignment. Okay, so we can look into the idea of if it's counter force or if it's dark force. All right, so let's take a look at that now. That's the tarot. What group is running was it Norway? Norway right now. Okay, is it the counter forces? Let's just say, are the counter forces right now the ones responsible for running Norway, for operating it, for basically being in charge, for creating an administration, jurisdiction over Norway? Does that fall under the counter forces? Okay, let's take a look. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes. So basically in the past, this feels like this has been happening for quite some time. Okay. Norway has been under the jurisdiction of the counter forces for quite some time. And this is a counter forces card right here. Okay. Counter forces are definitely running the show. And I know if that's the thing, well, Brad, if they're running the show, then why is all this stuff being allowed to happen? Because it's part of the narrative that needs to be exposed to wake up more people. That's why it's happening. Okay. So again, this represents the idea that they're going to start reestablishing the entire, you could say, transitional government. They're starting to move much more in a different path. So again, we're walking away from the way things were, and we're moving on into something much, much better. Okay, so this is what's happening behind the scenes right now. Is there's packing up, there's transitioning taking place with Norway. Because Guru, I know you come on here every week and you're asking about Norway. Maybe some other people are also asking about Sweden and Norway. I get these questions all the time, guys. Like, a lot of you keep coming back every week, and it's similar questions. And I say, guys, this is what's happening, okay? I know you don't see it on the MSM, but you're not meant to see it on the MSM, because everybody who's seeing it on the MSM wouldn't really have these questions because you're seeing it in plain view. These things are meant to be kept clandestine, right? These are clandestine tactics that are taking place through a transitional government, so that there's a quiet sweeping behind the scenes. Everything is kept very airtight. That's why you don't really see a lot of information online about what's really happening behind the scenes. That's deliberate, guys. This is everybody. These are the men and women working behind the curtains, shifting everything around, and then revealing at the appropriate time. They maintain radio silence. They keep a tight lid on their operations because they're going in and they're not trying to rock the boat, right? They're going in and they basically have to do their infiltration missions. They basically have to do cleanup. And they do clean up, and they apprehend people. They may take them to trials, all these things. There's all kinds of secret trials that are happening all the time with a lot of these Dark Cabal members, okay? And some that are left behind are basically just mid-level stooges, okay? That's why you notice some of these leaders walking around. And guys, the leaders that you see on the TV are not the head honchos. They're puppets. They are actors. I don't even know if we can even call them mid-level. They're more like low-level stooges. Okay, they're actors. They follow scripts. If you think that these guys are on TV, are the head honchos, you're deluding yourself. They're not. They're not even close to it. So that is exactly why some of them are basically maintaining their position of authority, because they've decided to switch sides. They've decided to flip the script, so to speak. They said, no, I'll do it, just don't take me away, right? I'll do anything you want. Okay, great. Then this is what you're going to do, okay? And it needs to play out the narrative. The narrative needs to continue to be played out. Just a moment. When you are looking at all of these events taking place throughout your media devices, throughout everything that you are experiencing throughout your own governments, you are maybe not quite realizing that your governments are being slowly dismantled. The governments as you know them to be cannot be allowed to exist anymore. And right now, this is all part of a narrative, a very complex narrative, that is meant to associate itself on a global level to very slowly and intricately taking down certain seeds that have been planted throughout the fields of many countries that represent governmental authority. As new seeds are being planted, the old seeds are also simultaneously, through the weeds that they have cultivated, being pulled out from the soil. You are looking at a complete and total re-gardening process here when it comes to the nature of authoritative transformation and control on the earth. Nothing from what you would know as corrupt government will stand on its own 2 feet after this is done. They must be completely and totally removed from the garden. The weeds are being pulled out. So when you look at these narratives through much of your common mainstream channels, what you are not realizing is that you're only looking at a veil. You're only looking at sanitized news. You're only looking at sanitized media. None of it is actually the truth in regards to what's actually happening. Many of you think it is, but it's not. It's not even close. This is sanitized, regurgitated, watered down news that is giving you impressions of things that are happening that have either already happened or again are greatly exaggerated to generate a certain state of narrative so that people are following those particular stories while the actual things that are actually happening in the background you are completely oblivious to. Because what's happening in the background is a complete and total takedown of the old regimes that have been happening here, that have been taking place, that have established themselves here for a very, very long time. That is not going to be in your sanitized, watered down news that many of you watch. In fact, 99.9% of you watch on the planet daily. You haven't even understood about the 0.1%. You haven't even seen it because you're not meant to see it. It's not for the public to know. And the reason why that is because that creates the opportunity of exposures. As those exposures are leaked out, the opportunity for these operations that need to take place will again cause more of a cascading effect in delays in regards to what needs to happen. That's why it's kept on a tight lid. But there are many forces taking place right now through what is commonly termed as the counter forces that hold many different branches of jurisdiction, not just on this world, but in between the worlds and beyond it. There is a great deal of assistance, a great deal of help that is taking place across the entire planet right now that you are completely unaware of and are meant to be unaware of. And as long as you continue to buy into these narratives, you are only looking at the watered down truths. You are looking at untruths, as it were. Elements at best. Therefore, if you truly want to understand what is taking place, come into your own source, because you will get that gentle reminder. You are not going to get incredible details because these details are meant to be kept quiet. It is the way that it needs to take place so that changes can take place quickly, so that agendas that were meant to happen, that were been very, very detrimental to the collective, are now being canceled out, are now being closed off. Therefore, the narratives that you're feeling, that are giving you small impressions of what's taking place, is already getting what it needs from you No, I will not participate. No, I will not involve myself with that. No, I'm not interested in being part of a world like that. You've done your part. Your thoughts have made that happen. And that is what's happening through the collective. No, we're not going to do that. No, forget about it. I'm not interested. I am not going to subscribe to that idea. Now you've done it. You've done what you've needed to do. And now everything can continue to proceed as it needs to. The 0.1% of what is actually going on behind the scenes is meant to be kept clandestine, so that everything can arrange itself appropriately, so that all of you can now start to see the world unfold in a very different way, because this is being brought forward in very, very higher forces of intelligence, far beyond the idea of worldly views, far beyond the idea of politics, of the idea of authority leadership that you would understand in human ways. This is something far more grander than that. Therefore, do not get too caught up into the idea of what you are seeing through your media, because it's not the truth. It's very watered down. It's very sanitized. It's very diluted. Please keep this in mind. Okay, so a little bit of an overview there for you guys from the higher self. All right, thank you very much. All right. I'm just going to go down the list here a bit more, guys, so just give me a moment. Okay, this one here is from The Man Demands. It's not really a question, but he says, regarding your last week's live, I wanted to say that there are amazing platonic solid visuals and audio meditations on YouTube with amazing 3D, hypnotizing, moving effects. Okay, well, you're not looking to be hypnotized by the platonic solids, okay? You're contemplating, okay? When I'm talking about contemplating, guys, I'm not saying you guys are getting hypnotized and going into trance, okay? I don't recommend going into trance. What you guys are doing is you're contemplating, okay? So it's like if I'm looking at a glass and I'm seeing the water in here, okay? I'm not trying to jiggle around. I'm not trying to work with reflections or anything like that to try and hypnotize me to feel like I'm as the water, okay? What I'm doing is I'm contemplating the glass. What I'm doing is I'm contemplating the geometry that's upon the glass, which means I'm still stable in an active state of being, okay? I'm not having to go into trance and being hypnotized in that way, okay? Hypnosis is not the way when I'm talking about the idea of the platonic solids. Okay? Sure, there's hypnosis that can help you out in other forms, right? But basically what I'm referring to is that you are contemplating, right? You're just basically going into, not hypnosis, but dhyana, transcendental meditation, okay? When you're going into the transcendental, you are not just feeling that the idea that you're being hypnotized, right, and thinking that there needs to be some type of influence here, but you're seeing how your body is made of this geometry, right? You've come to the realization. You are realizing that everything truly is, from what represents the mind state, all of these platonic solids, okay? That you are a hexahedron, that you are a sphere, that you are an octahedron, that you are a dodecahedron, right? I just talked about this morning when I put up the Christ oil video, okay? Christ oil, the sacred secretion. That's now up on my YouTube channel. That one was a big video. It took me a few days to edit that one and to put it all together because it's a very, very big topic, right? And as you start working together with just being able to contemplate, right? Just like what we do in meditation is we contemplate, right? We go into deeper absorption, okay? So you're not going into hypnosis. You're going into absorption. So there's a difference, okay? Hypnosis is basically trying to give you the influence that you are that, right? Whereas when you're looking into the idea of the absorption, you see how you are it as one. It's a more of a different feeling when you're going into the state of absorption, okay? If I'm basically telling you guys you're a sponge and I'm trying to hypnotize you to think you're a sponge, you're going to start taking on those characteristics of the sponge. Rather, instead, I'm going to tell you guys as the sponge, just absorb the water. As the water flows, just absorb the water, okay? And you're absorbing that into yourself. So absorption is very, very different from hypnosis. So I'm not telling you guys to be hypnotized. I'm telling you guys to absorb. I'm telling you guys to do platonic absorption, which is the deep contemplation of realizing that these platonic solids are one with you, right? You're not just taking on the identity of the platonic solid. Look, guys, I'm a triangle, right? No, that's hypnosis, okay? You are seeing how you are one with the platonic solids, how you and the platonic solid are one, that it really is just one thing, and that's absorption, okay? So you're going into dhyana, you're going into transcendental meditation, not hypnosis, okay? That's the important part of it, is just know that when I start looking at a tetrahedron, and I just contemplate that, and I realize that the tetrahedron and I are one through absorption, that is me being able to discover the true nature of the mind, right? The true nature of the natural geometry that makes up my body. I'm not just trying to hypnotize myself to think I'm a tetrahedron, but I'm seeing how the tetrahedron is one with me. That's absorption, okay? So that's the whole idea. So basically when you look at yogis, where they start doing pratyahara, sensory withdrawal, where they start going into dharana, right? They start looking into the idea of one-pointed focus, and then they start going into dhyana, where they're going into absorption, and then they're going into samadhi, right, which is the deepest absorption of all. That's the idea. These are absorption practices, guys, not hypnosis, okay? Don't hypnotize yourself with what I'm talking about here. If you want to hypnotize yourself for other things, go for it. But that's not what I'm trying to give you guys. This is why I've called it platonic absorption and not platonic hypnosis, okay? Very important to remember. But yes, there's a lot of stuff that you can look at, but like I said, you don't even have to look at the idea of moving objects. If you want to look at moving objects, that's fine. But I'd like you to experience it in stillness. Just look at this. Look at this behind, guys. It's not moving in any way, and that is the perfect example for a platonic absorption. Okay? A simple picture. It doesn't have to move. If you want it to move, okay. But you're not getting hypnotized. You're getting absorbed. That's the difference. All right? Thank you for your question. Okay, this one here is about the ether bed. This is from Lunderground. How can the ether bed be used in conjunction with an earthing sheet in bed? Well, they work together. Guys, when you're actually looking at the ether bed, you are not looking at some contraption, okay? You have an ether kit, okay? So you have a bed sheet, you have a duvet cover, you have 2 pillowcases. That's the common material thing, okay? And that works just like any other material thing. You guys are still trying to compare the technology of the ether bed kit to some type of digital contraption. And you would be wrong thinking that, because that's not what it is. Okay? When you're looking at the ether bed, it is spiritual technology. It is technology of the ether. So what's happening? You're working with your own magnetism. Guys, you're the power source. Okay? When you get the ether bed kit, you don't get a little plug-in and plug it into the wall. This is not a mechanical engineering product. This is a spirit technology. Okay? You are the power source. This right here is the power source of the ether bed. This right here is the power source of the ether cloth. This right here is the power of your ether shirt. Okay? You're the power source. You are not looking at this electromagnetically, because that's how a lot of you guys think. Oh, well, I have this sheet and I have this sheet here and this needs to be plugged into the wall. Who cares? Go ahead. Electromagnetic energy cannot touch spirit technology. Okay? Guys, if that was the case, then spirit would not be infinite. If you can disrupt spirit intelligence, then it would not be the infinite. I'm talking about infinite etheric technology, to which the ether bed kit is, to what the ether shirts are, to what the ether cloth is, to what the ether towel is, to what the healing code cards are. They're etheric spiritual technology. Okay? So it's not about plugging them into the wall. It's not to think that I'm going to get some sort of interference patterns because I'm plugging in a grounding sheet, or I have some other thing here I'm plugging into my bed. Oh my God, the codes are going to be disturbed. No, they're not, because they are beyond all the simple little gadgets you got. And I say this with the greatest respect. When you have an ether bed kit inside your house, it's greater than any other technology that you've got in your house, period. because it's so far beyond any of those electromagnetic, digital, Neanderthal, caveman technologies. Those things could never touch the spirit technology. Okay? You do not need to concern about the idea of something get disrupted. You do not need to concern about you cleaning the codes of the sheets or the pillowcases or anything of that nature. It doesn't work that way, guys. It's not the tarot. Okay? It's a living technology like the tarot. But a lot of us will need to clean this tarot because this doesn't have spirit codes in it. This works with your subconscious. Okay? So it's a living technology, but it's not etheric technology. Okay? AetherX is spirit technology. You can never disrupt it. You can never cause it to fade away. As long as the material anchor, the vessel that it is being used for, is intact, you're going to be fine. Okay? If you basically take it and you burn it, well, then it's done, right? The vessel can no longer function. But that symbol still remains. The symbol that covers the entire material item, and that symbol that is programmed through the mind, through higher intelligence, is still working. And you get hundreds, and you get thousands, and you get tens of thousands, and you get hundreds of thousands, and you get millions of those items, and they all work the same. Because it's the same etheric spiritual technology that's contained inside the symbol. Okay? Cannot be touched. Cannot be destroyed. Your material items can be destroyed, but the spirit technology itself can never be destroyed because it exists beyond the material plane. This is the lowest, densest bowels of reality right here where we're in, guys. That's the physical plane. What I'm talking about is something that is so beyond the physical plane, you could never touch it. You can never disturb it. You can never hurt it because it is completely beyond anything material. Does that make sense, guys? I'm hoping I'm making myself clear with that. Do not concerned about electromagnetic frequency. If I have an earthing sheet, is that going to be compatible with it? Of course it is. Electromagnetism is not going to supersede the power of spirit technology. Spirit technology is it. It's the highest. It's beyond any form of technology that we have on this planet. That's how powerful it is. And eventually, mankind is going to move into this etheric technology. Maybe I'm being one of the pioneers for it, right? Where we're going to have etheric technology working with everything, with how you transport yourself, with the clothes that you wear, with the food that you eat, with how food is materialized. We can materialize food right out of the ether, guys. We have that capability, but we're ignorant to it, and that's why we don't do it, right? But technology can be developed to make that happen, right? We look at Star Trek with replicators and stuff like that. That still is garbage technology. I'm talking about getting it directly from the ether itself, where it is a living food. I'm not talking about dead food being materialized here, being copied, okay? That's garbage. Fortunately, there are some technologies like that, and that's crap, okay? I'm talking about manifesting things directly from the ether, so that it's as fresh and as alive as you just picking an apple from the tree. We have that. We can do that. But we don't know that we can do that, and that's where there's a problem. So I'm hoping that AetherX will be one of those pioneer companies that's saying, guys, we're working with ether technology here, and it's being made public, and that this is something that can transform your lives. People who are starting to use the healing code cards are healing. People who have now got their ether bed kits are starting to use their ether bed kits and are now healing. People who are using the trial symbol here through AetherX is using it and they're healing themselves. People are healing their eyesight. People are starting to work with their hair. Their hair is getting more refreshed. They're taking the gray out of their hair. Their hair is getting a little bit thicker. Okay? They have heart conditions. Their heart is getting better because they're using this. Okay? They have indigestion. Their indigestion is getting better because they're using this. They have migraines. It's getting better because of this. And then when they have the ether bed, that's going to even multiply it even greater. Okay? That's what this is all about with the AetherX. I'm not trying to create this into an infomercial, guys, but I'm telling you how powerful it is through the nature of spirit etheric technology. Okay? And I would love to see more companies like AetherX come alive. Maybe while I'm still alive on this planet. That would be wonderful to see. But so far, I'm the only one. All right? So let's hope it continues to grow. All right, so let's go on. Let's move onwards. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat just to make sure I didn't miss any donations. Okay, here's one from Patricia. Patricia says, if we are doing spiritual work in our sleep, what connection do our remembered dreams have? I.e. bees in a spider web or trying to get to the ferry. Okay, so Patricia, thank you for your donation here. So if we're doing spiritual work in our sleep, what connection do our remembered dreams have? Well, everything is based upon your experience. You have to understand that your dreams are no more different than what you're experiencing here in physical reality. What makes physical reality so real, guys? Why does it feel like it's so real? Because you're lucid with the experiences here. That's why. You're lucid of every single second that passes through physical life. That's why you give it the feeling, oh, this is what's real, Brad, right? I can feel the table. I can touch the microphone. I can touch the glass. I can touch the screen. I can touch the camera, right? It's only real because of your lucidity, of your awareness of it, okay? When you go off into the dream plane and you have a very lucid dream and you're remembering everything, you remember everything in regards to what's taking place. Doesn't matter if you're bees caught in a spider's web, okay? Doesn't matter if you're trying to run off and get a boat ferry to go from one island to another. They're still lucid experiences because you're involving yourself with it. You are aware of those dreams and they're just as real to you as this is. Now, we're not going to go into the paintbrushing of looking into the meanings of the dreams and so forth like that, because that's not really important. Really just look into what the dreams are doing to you, how you're feeling when you're experiencing the dreams. That's all you have to do, okay? So it's not about the, okay, he's got a big gigantic rectangular cake with Queen Elizabeth's face on it, and I cut the cake, and oh my God, do I want to kill the Queen? Okay? And we get so caught up in these melodramatic stories of the dream time. Right, Queen Elizabeth's face is on here. Oh my God, I'm cutting the cake and I'm killing the Queen. Okay, these all represent different tendencies. These are all part of your subconscious language about what you fear, what you don't like, and what you do like. Right, you may love cake, you may not like the Queen. Right, so forth. And you're cutting into it, and you're feeling like you're hurting the Queen. And that's basically your own subconscious elements coming together, telling you about yourself. So now I can reflect, okay, well, I remember the feelings I had about the Queen. You're right, I didn't really like her that much. Am I ready to let go of that now? Yeah, I'm going to surrender it. Done. Okay? So I'm looking at what the dream is doing to me, to how I feel. How am I reacting to the dream? Just like how I'm reacting to physical reality. Here's a person that I don't like. Oh, my skin crawls and I see this person. I don't like them. Okay, well, I just caught myself there. That's something that I don't like. How is that working for me? Well, it just doesn't make me feel good. I feel like I'm nauseated in the stomach every time I think of this person. Then that's what we need to do. We need to discharge. We need to surrender. Okay? Another word for surrender, guys, is called discharging. Okay? What you're doing is you're letting out all of the charge surrounding that person, place, event, or thing. We're discharging ourselves. And we're surrendering. We're letting it go. Discharge your ability to feel like you don't like this person. Okay? If I'm a bee caught in a spider's web and I see that in the dream and I wake up from it and I recollect that memory and I see how much terror I felt as that little bee, as a spider was coming close to me to try and eat me, well, that's already past. All I'm doing is I'm thinking about it. What does the thought represent, guys? The past. You've never had a present thought. There's no such thing. You're only in the present moment. And the only thing that exists in the present moment is intuition. Okay? So whenever you're looking at thoughts and you're trying to reflect, you're trying to recollect what you're going through in the dream. I had this great fear because I was a little bee caught in a spider's web and there's this big, nasty, ugly spider coming together, ready to sink his fangs into me and drain my blood and eat me. Right? But here I am looking at it as a human being. I need to discharge from that. Do I have the ability to unsee that dream? Do I have the ability to change that dream that I've already had? No. So what do? I don't worry about change. That's what you got to do with the idea of change externally. Okay? The only way you're going to change is when you discharge. You discharge everything that you know does not represent who you really are. I discharge it. I surrender to it. I let it go. Gone. I'm now completely at peace with that dream, because I have realized that I'm not identifying the sake of my life based upon that little bee caught in the cobweb with a spider coming up to it. Okay? Because I am not the body, I am not the mind. I'm working with the body, but I'm not the body. I'm working with the mind, but I'm not the mind. I am. I am the I am. Right? So that is where you're truly identifying with. The only identity you should have is your identity as spirit. Your identity as consciousness. Your identity as awareness. Your identity as the self. Your identity as infinite. The ether, right? That's your nature. That is who you are. Everything that represents these dreams that come and go, come and go, come and go, and you're getting attached to them and attached to them. Oh my God, that spider was going to eat me. Oh my God, I missed the ferry. Right? Oh my goodness, I'm cutting into Queen Elizabeth. Okay? All of these things are just giving you these emotions. Where do emotions come from? They're of the mind. So why am I holding on to them? I know that the mind comes and goes. I know that emotions come and go. Why am I holding on to them? Because I'm identifying with them. I'm identifying with what's impermanent. I need to discharge. And I surrender. Okay? So it's no more different than what you're looking at here in physical reality. When you're looking at dream reality, physical reality, they're one and the same. What makes them what we feel the real to be is our vividness awareness of them. Your vivid awareness is what makes the real, even though it's not real. It's just your own experience. Okay? So I hope that helps you. But the spiritual work is to you remember that you are God. That's the only purpose of spiritual work. It's for you to know that you're God. It's for you to know that you're spirit. And if you're fighting with yourself, then that's what you have to let go of. There's no work in spiritual work. Did you guys know that? When you're doing spiritual work, you're not working. You're being effortless. Because you're taking in all these things, thinking, oh my God, here's my work, and here's my work, and here's my work. And then I discharge. Psh! What did I do? I didn't do anything. I just let everything go. I discharged. I surrendered to everything. And it went right back into the ether. I was able to re-invert the ether back into wholeness, back into silence, back into stillness, back into absence. And I'm free. That's what I've been trying to teach you guys from day one about doing the prana transmission technique, about doing the release ball method, is to learn to discharge, is to learn to surrender. So the spiritual work is no work at all. You are simply spirit, and that will never change. Even if you go through all these superimpositions of you feeling that you're this person, you have this much money in your bank account, and you have this big house, and you're doing this type of work, who cares? You're always spirit. Okay? It's great that you have that experience. It's great that you're in a body and you're playing around with life. Fantastic. Enjoy life, right? But when you get caught down into the cobwebs, representing of thinking that all life is just suffering, you're just identifying as a body in the mind. And you have to remember to discharge, right? And sure, we'll get challenging events. I've certainly had challenging events in my life as well too, recently and in the past, right? But we catch it and we discharge. So you're right, this is what I'm feeding. This is what I'm holding on to. I'm letting it go. Discharge, discharge, discharge. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Okay? Good question, Patricia. Thank you for your question. All right, let's go down the list here. We're going to take about one or two more questions before we wrap up. Okay. Okay, this one here is from Ali Mills. Ali says, could you do a card reading on the pretty constant weather manipulation here in the UK? Okay. With the weather, what's the situation with weather manipulation technology in the UK? All right, we'll take a look at that. Okay. So like I said, there certainly has been some weather modification warfare that's been going on through both sides. Okay. So there's been plans. There's been plans of trying to work with certain agendas that are trying to use weather modification technology to create earthquakes or to create flooding. And like I said, the dark forces still have somewhat of those technologies that remain. Okay. But for every particular type of attempt they try to do, they get foiled. Right. So there is weather modification that has been happening in the UK. You're right. It's been happening a lot around Europe. Guys, the Turkey earthquake is caused by weather modification technology, okay? Being able to work together with technologies that create earthquakes, right? Whether it's HARP or anything else of that nature, okay? But basically this is looking to be harmonized. This is looking to be reintegrated together. But they're basically still catching those scoundrels, you could say, that are still in the act, that are trying to create these forms of weather Armageddons, okay? And that's what's been trying to happen, but they're failing. Because everything that they're trying to attempt to do with weather modification is being counteracted. Their weather Armageddons are constantly being snuffed out. Sometimes they're able to work with earthquakes and stuff like that. But then again comes the counter forces. So yes, we've certainly had a lot of earthquakes, especially over the past few years. Large earthquakes. And of course, Turkey has been the other one here. And then it's been basically a particular type of technology that they still had, where they could basically work and disrupt the inner tectonics of the earth and creating those incredible earthquake effects. Just like we've had the La Palma volcano. Okay, guys, La Palma volcano was dark cabal. But in regards to its reach of trying to create a gigantic tsunami to wipe out the East Coast, that too was diverted. Okay, so they're not able to really get what they want anymore. They don't really have as many of the toys as they do. They still have some, right? And they're still able to use it at particular times. But again, when we look at the idea of the earthquake taking place in Turkey, we notice that there are actually people being told beforehand, oh, there's a big earthquake in Turkey that's about to happen, and you guys need to leave, right? It was nothing more than, again, another false flag event that turned into this gigantic earthquake, okay? So they were able to get away with the idea of a large earthquake in Turkey, something that fits the situation of the narrative right now that needed to take place, right? So again, there have been a lot of weather modification shakeups. There's been weather modification here in my neck of the woods. They were trying to create an incredible blizzard that would last a couple of months, right? Where it'd be just so incredibly covered in snow, nobody would be able to go anywhere. They were trying to create that, but it was foiled, okay? They try to create these blizzards. They try to create these floods. Sometimes they're allowed to happen. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get foiled. But it's a weather warfare that's taking place on both sides right now, right? So, like I said, that's basically what's taking place. So have there been some weather manipulation in the UK? Yes, there certainly has been. Around Europe? Yes. Around the Middle East? Yes. Around Asia? Yes. Around over here in the West? Yes. Okay? It's all over the place. And a lot of them get foiled and some basically make it through. Because, again, it's all part of the narrative of what needs to happen. But again, when you're noticing that people are trying to tell people days in advance, get out of Turkey, because there's going to be a huge earthquake that's going to hit there. And they've had that notice. Well, you know that those are false flag events. And that's exactly what's happened to Turkey. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to do a mass meditation on the country of Turkey for that. Okay. Thank you for your question. We're going to take one more question and we're going to wrap up. Okay. Okay, let's see if we can find the one more question. Okay, so there's a question here about solar flares. Okay, so again, guys, as I've talked about, if we still think solar flares are real, we don't know the sun. Okay, solar flares are not the case here. Okay, solar flares are not the actual science that's happening together with the sun. To think that there's solar flares is to think that the sun is just a big ball of fire, that it's just a gigantic fiery furnace, and that's not how it works, okay? There's plumes and not flares, okay? There's a difference between the plumes and the flares that are happening. So, if we had flares, we'd be looking at the sun as a gigantic ball of fire, and it's the ridiculous, archaic belief of thinking that, oh yeah, the sun has all this heat, And you have to be in the Goldilocks zone for the sun to warm the planet and all that stuff. And that's a bunch of stupidness. That's a bunch of ignorance. Okay? The sun doesn't work that way. Okay? The sun does not have its own heat, and it does not have its own light. You can really only look at the sun through X-ray or through, again, our atmosphere, the etheric atmosphere that we have. When you go beyond that atmosphere, when you go beyond that etheric atmosphere altogether, you're not even really able to see any stars unless you have some type of technology or apparatus with you that enables you to see them. That again can see them more so through the nature of X-ray or other forms of visual spectrums. Okay? So basically through the naked eye, if we did not have our atmosphere here, we wouldn't even be able to see the sun. Okay? Because again, it creates a sonoluminescent-like effect. Now I've talked about this. So guys, what I want you to do is if you're curious about the sun, you go onto my YouTube channel and you type in on my search bar, true nature of the sun. Okay, and you watch it. And that will give you much more of an idea about what the sun really is. Okay, because 99% of people don't even know what the sun really is. Very few people that actually do. Nikola Tesla, for example, never saw the sun as a ball of fire. Okay, realize that the radiation that the sun brings into our atmosphere is measured by vibrations per second. So you're looking at millions and millions and millions of vibrations per second when the radiation of the sun is hitting our atmosphere that generates light. It's an intense force that comes through the radiation of the sun. Why do you think we see it in X-ray? Okay? So that is the nature of the sun. It is not some gigantic ball of fire that's going to belch us off the earth. Guys, how old is the earth? Billions of years old. Has the earth ever been blown away by gigantic solar flares from the sun within those billions of years? Not once. So why the heck would you think it happens now? Okay? That is the ignorance of modern science. They don't know what they're talking about. They are completely ignorant to this. They have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know how the sun works, and yet they put up these assumptions and thinking. This is why they always have theories. Here's a theory of how the sun works. Here's a theory of how it's hot. Here's a theory of how it's a hot ball of fire. And a bunch of ignorance, right? Even Ken Wheeler talks about this too with the modern quantum relativity, right? Quantum crowd, the general relativity crowd, of how they're trying to create virtual photons and everything's photons and all this stupid crap. Okay? And that's not how creation works. That's not how the mind works. That's not how the ether works. But we're told to believe that that's how it works. Solar flares. Solar flares are going to cook us. We're going to get cooked by solar flares. Dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what the sun is. How could you say that there's solar flares when you don't even know what the sun is? And I would ask to go talk to a scientist who thinks they know what the sun is. Okay, if there is a big hot ball of fire, why is there a lot more water that comes out of these plumes? And why is it that everything in regards to the plasma of the sun seems to come back upon itself when we see this activity with the sun? They can't answer you, right? Because they don't know. They've even admitted, we don't know why the sun does that. It's impossible, right? We see these jets of these streams of X-ray coming out and it just inverts back upon itself because, again, the sun has magnetism. It's a null point. It's a gateway. It's a living well of radiation. It has nothing to do with light and fire and heat. It has nothing to do with that. But again, majority of scientists don't even know this. This is what happens when you tune in here and you start listening. And you can actually walk into the sun and you can see exactly what's going on inside the sun. You can get a true scientific perspective of what the sun really is. It's nothing what science says it is at all. Right? It's a null point. It's singularity. It's a living well. And it has its own cycles to where it disperses. But what it's actually doing for its neighboring planets is that is actually what's helping it generate charge. Charge is getting generated through the planets at appropriate points to when these plumes take place. Okay? So yes, it's working together with a generation of charge Because again, what the Earth is going through right now is an immense charge. And it's utilizing the solar activity that's taking place to have this charge so that it's going through this cleansing process. It's a cleansing that's taking place. That's what the Earth is going through. The Earth has been unwell. The Sun's taking care of his daughter. And that's the Earth. And so the Sun is giving this charge, these charges of plumes that are coming in. Again, the toroidal shape of the Earth, bringing in that charge, and through the inside it comes out. The idea of the aurora borealis is like a sneeze, right? It's ejecting these things. It's discharging these things. It's clearing out all of this debris, and it's interacting with all life upon on the planet. Okay, everything is interconnected to everything else. So when the sun is throwing these plumes onto the Earth, and she's absorbing it through her torus, her toroidal field, right here, okay, she is therefore discharging. The aurora borealis, and even Janine looked into this as well too. She's saying this is something that really shouldn't be happening, but it's happening. It's kind of like an effect. I said, yeah, this has to do with discharging. This is a discharge taking place. It's the discharging of everything that represents the old stagnant energies. No more different than how we're sick and we start sneezing, and we start coughing, we run a high fever. Okay, that's what the Earth's going through. And she's sneezing these discharges out in the northern and southern poles of herself. And these are evacuations. These are discharges that are taking place because she is renewing herself. She's being reintegrated. She's being charged up. As she's being charged up, new changes are going to happen upon her surface. We're seeing again the idea of people changing. We're seeing the idea of the environment changing. We're seeing all these transformations taking place. We're feeling like time is speeding up a lot more. All of this is taking place because the Earth is going through this charge to which the Sun is helping her, not destroying her with dumb solar flares, okay? But with plumes. This is the true science, guys. You need to really look into these a lot more and not just take what you think is real based upon modern scientists who don't know a damn thing of what they're talking about. Right? When you look inside, you will know the truth. And that's all I'm doing, to share this with you. But you have to kind of take it or leave it. It's up to you to know what is the truth, not just what I tell you. All right? Look into yourself and discern. Okay? Thank you, guys. That is going to wrap up our webcast for today for New Earth Tarot Live. Thank you so much for being here today. Come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time for New Earth TV Live, where we'll be doing that meditation for Turkey, distance healing with a new technique, and of course, Q&A. Thank you for being here, and I'll speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Goodbye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to YouTube. Don't forget to check out our websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can do private sessions with me, and also AetherX.co. And through AetherX, you'll be able to pick up your Healing Code Cards body deck, your mind deck, and your energy deck through AetherX. You will also be able to pick up the Etherbed kit. That is also on AetherX as well. Not to mention that you'll also be able to pick up some apparel and accessories that is also available on AetherX. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next one. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskar, and may it be well with you.